Welcome to Chapter 9 of Matrix Games World in Flames training videos. This chapter covers land movement and combat. The scenario for this chapter is global war, and we are at the very first turn of global war, September-October 1939, the very first impulse with the Axis as the phasing side. To give you a sense of where we are in the sequence of play, we're down to land movement, and we've already done rail moves. We're just doing land moves. This chapter will cover land moves. It will not cover these other phases, air transport, debark units, invasions, and paradrops. And instead it'll move on to land combat, which has a number of subphases that will be covered. The important thing about global war is to understand what the relationships are between the various countries. And what's happened is almost everyone is neutral at this point in the game. The only ongoing war is Japan against China, and Germany has just declared war on Poland, and it's going to be a surprise impulse for the German attacks against Poland. Notice that the Allied side, besides China being at war with Japan, all of the rest of the major powers on the Allied side are neutral with everyone, so they're not at war at all. What's going to happen on the second turn is both Commonwealth and France are going to be required to declare war on Germany. So in the second impulse that's going to happen, and Germany is going to be surprised by both of those declarations of war. In the third impulse, what's going to happen is Germany is going to declare war on Denmark. And to start with the land movement, so I want to close in on Denmark and show you what's going to happen on the third impulse. This is an easy way to show simple land movement. There are two German units sitting on the border of Denmark, a 2-4 and a 1-5, and they're going to advance into Denmark. Denmark doesn't have any land units to set up when it's first attacked, so these two German units are going to move into Denmark unopposed. The 2-4 is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to Copenhagen, and the 1-5 motorized is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to Frederikshavn. These are all clear hexes, and let me bring up the terrain effects chart for movement through clear hexes. Both leg infantry and motorized infantry, it costs 1 movement point. If you go into forest, the motorized are going to have to pay 2. And if you go into mountain, the motorized are 3, and even the land units have to pay 2. The other important item that's happening here is that we're crossing a straight hex side, and that's +1 for both leg and motorized. So when I was counting out the movement costs for the infantry, it's 1, 2, 3 for crossing the strait, 4 into Copenhagen. Occupying the capital means that Denmark is going to be conquered at the end of the turn, but there are several impulses that are going to happen before that occurs. And so therefore, Germany is going to take this 1-5 motorized infantry and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to occupy Frederikshavn. The reason that they want to occupy this port and go through Arnhus so that it also is German controlled is that it denies the British the opportunity of bringing in reinforcements into a port. The British can still land units on the coast, but that's not as valuable as landing in a port. For instance, if Germany had just used the infantry to take out Copenhagen and left the other two ports unoccupied, the Commonwealth could land units in Frederikshavn and in their land turn move them and bring them down, not necessarily threatening to conquer Copenhagen, but being annoying nonetheless. By taking out both of these on the third impulse, that'll leave Germany the rail line into Copenhagen, and they'll be able to rail move a unit into Copenhagen, freeing up the 2-4. And the 2-4 will retrace its path, the 1-5 will retrace its path, and both of these units will be able to participate in the attacks on the lowland countries over here. Now let's go look at Poland. This is the whole purpose of the first impulse, is for Germany to conquer Poland. So let's start by removing the units from display and putting in the flag markers. You'll see that Germany controls East Prussia, Germany proper. It has also aligned Czechoslovakia, so it controls all these hexes along here. Poland extends far to the east and abuts the USSR. It also has a section that goes up through Vilna and abuts Latvia. So Poland is fairly large. What's going to happen, though, is that once Germany invades Poland, the USSR has the option of entering into eastern Poland, which is the section over here. And once the USSR enters eastern Poland, all of these hexes, which are currently aligned to the Commonwealth, will become controlled by the USSR. So the occupation of eastern Poland is well within the domain of the USSR. Poland's main problem in defending against Germany is that there's such a wide border. It's got this large number of hexes up here that can be attacked from East Prussia. It has an enormous western border that can be attacked from Germany, and its entire southern flank can also be attacked from German units in Czechoslovakia. This is partially alleviated by the Germans having to set up first. And since the Germans didn't set up down here in the southern border, the Polish units did not have to defend there. And since the Russians aren't going to attack right away, they can ignore most of eastern Poland. But still, they have an enormous number of hexes to defend against. So what they've decided is to sacrifice the Navy. So the Navy is just sitting here all by itself, and they're going to be overrun. It's got one divisional unit out here sitting in a city so that it cannot be overrun. It's also in a forest, which also cannot be overrun. It's got a 3-4 down here in a city. It's got a 4-4 sitting on a resource point. And it's got 9 strength points, 2 of its best units in Lodz, and 2 of its best units in Warsaw. Both of those hexes have 9 defensive points. In order to conquer Poland, Germany's going to need to take out both Warsaw and Lodz. So the whole purpose here is to take those 2 hexes, hold them at the end of the turn, and Poland will surrender. All the Polish units will disappear. In setting up the Polish units, the Commonwealth player had to worry about overruns. As I said, the 1-4 cannot be overrun because it's in a city and the forest. The 3-4 is in a city, that cannot be overrun. The 2 units that might be are this 3-3 and a 4-4. Now, in order to overrun a unit, you need to achieve certain odds. What we're playing here is with the Land Rules 2D10 Land Combat Results table. That's on. And you might not be familiar with that, so I'm going to display it. Here is the combat results table. It's essentially a choice between assault and blitz, as the 1D10 is. For the 2D10, 2 10-sided dice are rolled and the results are totaled. So the range of results are from 2 if you rolled 2 1s up to 20 if you rolled 2 10s. That's a pretty wide range, from 2 all the way up to 20. The primary goal for the attacker is to drive the die roll modifiers. If you can add +6, then instead of the range being from 2 to 20, the range is going to be from 8 to 26. And you can see the table only goes up to 23 plus. If you achieve 2 to 1, you get +4 to the die roll, 3 to 1 +6, 4 to 1 +8, and so on. Basically, it's double. 1 to 1 is +2, and if you can get up to an +16 on the die roll, then you're able to overrun. That's what this red down here means. So the Commonwealth player, in setting up the Polish units, is worrying about a +16 or 8 to 1. He's got a 3 strength unit here. In order to get 8 to 1, you need 24 strength points. And the German units just aren't that strong. Here's a hex that has 15, so that could be a 5 to 1. Other things that can affect the die roll modifiers is +1 per attacking armor and mechanized, or a half for a division. So, if there is 1 armored and 1 mech, or 2 armor or 2 mech, whatever, that would be +2, and instead of needing 8 to 1, we'd only need 7 to 1, or 21 strength points to take out the Polish unit here. Another way that you can get additional is to disorganize the unit. So if a ground strike against this unit had disorganized it, you get another +2. And instead of needing 7 to 1, you'd only need 6 to 1. The 6 to 1 would give you +12, the disorganized would give you +14, and by having an armor and a mech involved in the attack, you would be at +16. This hex would qualify with 1 mech and 1 armored, but it would need to disorganize the unit, and it would still need 6 to 1. And against a 3, that means 18 points, and we do not have 18 points. The net result here is that this 3 is safe unless the Germans had 18 points starting in the same hex, with one of them mechanized and one of them motorized, and the Germans don't have that. So the Commonwealth player set up the 3-3 here in complete confidence that it would not be overrun. He also had confidence that the 4-4 would not be overrun, because he was assuming that we need 24 points to overrun it. However, the Germans were able to do a ground strike on this unit, and as you will see, they're going to be able to isolate it. Right now it's getting supply from Krakow. It could also trace supply back to Katowice, 1, 2, 3, another home city for the Poles, or to both Lodz and Warsaw. No problem, plenty of supply available. It can even reach Brest-Litovsk, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it looks like this unit is safe. But Germans are going to move this guy here, which cuts off the supply from these two cities. And it's going to take this 6-5 and bring him around to here, which cuts off this hex as a part of the supply path. And because this is a division, the division is unable to exert a zone of control except in the hex that it occupies. So this 6-3 can just breeze right on by and come up to here. And now the supply path going back to Warsaw and Lodz has been eliminated. The air unit is by itself in this hex, and therefore it doesn't negate the zone of control in terms of the supply path. The 4-4 is now both disorganized and out of supply. This means that its defense strength has dropped from 4 down to 1. And the reason that it's only 1 is because it's not an elite unit. This 5-3, for instance, if it were out of supply and disorganized, would have a defense strength of 3, even in that terrible state. This is an elite unit because it's a white print number down here, 5-3. But this is not, and so its defense strength is only 1. This means that Germany's going to be able to move this unit and overrun the 4-4. To do that, I'm going to hold down the control key and dictate specific hexes that I want this unit to traverse. I want it to go here, which costs 2 movement points, then here, which costs a 3rd, which costs a 4th, and now it's able to overrun. You might notice that the crosshairs have turned to DSRP, which means it's going to be disrupted or disorganized. The two words are used interchangeably within World in Flames. So disorganized because though it's only 5 movement points, the overrun is double. So this clear hex costs 2. So its full path is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. However, disrupting this unit is a small price to pay for achieving the overrun, because that causes the 4-4 to be destroyed. And now the Commonwealth player has the option of scrapping this unit or not. This is digression. The Commonwealth player chooses yes, he wants to scrap it, clicks on OK, done, and now that unit has disappeared from the map. What's also happened is that this air unit has now become vulnerable to being overrun by this 6-4. It's going to move 1, 2, 3. Notice that the armored unit costs 2 to go through the forest, but the infantry is just going to pay 1. 1, 2, 3. Now I want to bring up another form. This is the section from the rules as coded on surprise effects. Remember, Germany has surprised Poland. And the key line here is that if a land unit controlled by a major power declaring war on you enters a hex, so in this case if we're Poland and a land unit controlled by Germany enters a hex containing one of your organized aircraft units, which is what's going to happen here, the unit and its pilot are destroyed, not merely rebased. Usually Overrun organized aircraft units rebase, but because of the effects of surprise, the unit is going to be destroyed. So when we take this 6-4 and move it here, the scrap units form comes up again. The scrap units form shows the units that can be scrapped at the top. It lets you break them down by air, naval, and land. For instance, this is a bomber, so we could look at just bombers. And when we restrict the selection to bombers, the lists of units below show which ones are on map currently, which ones are in the force pool, and these cannot be scrapped, which ones are entering the force pool in the next year. We could click different buttons and get additional information on future years, and what is currently in the air reserves. And if you look down here, you'll see that there's a bomber with 3 and a range of 14 that's looking for a pilot. There's a bomber with a tactical of 3 and a range of 7 extended that's looking for a pilot. Polish bomber with a tactical of 3 but a range of only 3 is not worth keeping, so we're going to scrap it. And that ends the digression. Next I'm going to overrun the naval units that are sitting in Danzig. Danzig is a city, and land units in a city cannot be overrun. For instance, this 1-4 divisional unit. However, naval units by themselves can always be overrun in a hex. They don't get the benefits of terrain whatsoever. So I'll take this 7-4 and have him enter Danzig, and that's going to overrun the naval unit. Now I want to show you what happens when naval units are overrun. Here's the section of the rules from Rules as Coded, which talk about overrunning aircraft units, which we just did. And here's overrunning naval units. The important thing here is that when naval units are overrun by a land unit entering a port, the naval units must rebase. If the naval units are disorganized or surprised is the case that we're about to have here, in either of those instances there's a die roll to see whether the naval unit just merely rebases or whether it is lost. For instance, on a 5 or higher, that's a 5 through 10, the unit just rebases. On a 1, the enemy major power takes control of it. And so for instance, if this Polish unit rolls a 1, Germany is going to own the unit. It's going to be captured. On a roll of 2 to 4, it's destroyed. So the choices are 1, Germany gets it, 2 to 4, it's destroyed, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it rebases. On this case, the roll was a 10, and so it's going to rebase. And the roll for the flotilla was a 7, so it also is going to rebase. We are now into a rebase overrun units digression, and the units that have to rebase are shown in the selectable units form. So I'm going to pick up both of them, move them at the same time, and I'm going to rebase them back to England. Move them 1 to the Baltic, 2 movement points to the North Sea, and a 3rd movement point to Hull. The range for these units are 2 and 3, so typically they would only be able to move 2, but during a overrun, a rebase, they're able to go double their range. So this flotilla can go 4 and the convoy can go 6. So it was 1 to the Baltic, 2 to the North Sea, and they have to go into a port, so we'll choose Hull, which cost a 3rd movement point, and we've now rebased the 2 Polish units into Great Britain. At that point we can terminate the rebase. We're now back to the land movement phase, which was interrupted by the rebasing the naval units. It also had been interrupted by the scrap decisions about the overrun air unit and the overrun land unit. But we're all still within the land movement phase here. Those digressions will happen every once in a while. What we want to do is design the attack on this 1-4 so that it is guaranteed to succeed. And in order to do that, we need to understand the combat results table. So here's the combat results table again. We've only got one strength point defending, and what we'd like to do is, since it's going to be an assault into a city, we'd like to get so that we don't have any losses whatsoever. The German forces will receive losses all the way up through everything except a 23 plus. Here's a single unit. You might notice that the little asterisk over here, brown result with a diamond, means that the units would become disorganized. We don't want to disorganize them. And if we got the plus result, which will occur when attacking into a city or a forest, and we're doing actually both of those here, then plus means that the attacker takes an extra loss. So this plus would be a single point loss. This plus would mean 2 losses. So what we want is a 23 plus on the die roll. Die roll of 23 is good. In order to figure that out, we need to look at the modifiers. So if we got 10 to 1, we'd get a plus 20 on this unit. So we need 10 strength points against this, and we've got 6 plus 5 is 11, and that's plenty. We'll just leave these units where they are. Now to attack this cavalry unit, 3 strength points. If we wanted 10 to 1, we need 30 on it. Right now we've got 12, and getting it up to 30 seems to be problematic, especially since this armor is already stuck here. So let's look at the easier hexes. This 3 here, we can move the 8-5 here. We can bring the artillery unit up. We can bring the 7-4 over. We can bring the 7-3 over. So we have 8 plus 18 is 26 to 3. So we need another 4 points, and we can find that over here. We'll just take the 6-4, move them down here. So now we've got 14 from this hex, and we've got 18 from this hex. That's 32. That's going to give us our 10 to 1. Now these are going to be harder to attack. They're both worth 9 strength points. So why don't we take them one at a time? We'll go after Lotz, and from Lotz we'll bring in this entire hex. So we'll just take these units and move them in adjacent to Lotz. We've got this 7-3. We're just ignoring the zone of control, or the lack of zone of control by this division. So we're leaving these units behind to do their 10 to 1. We're not making this attack here, so we're just leaving these units to isolate the 3-4. He cannot move. So on Lotz right now we've got 6 plus 6 plus 7 for 19, and this hex is 15. 19 and 15 is 34, so we've got a 34 to 9. This 1-3, if we need to take a loss, we can take the loss with this divisional unit, which is cheaper to rebuild. So at this point, against these 9 strength points, we have the 6 and the 7 in this hex, and the 7 in that hex for 20, and 15 here makes 35. So we have 35 to 9. The magic number that we want is 36, and we can get that extra point from this naval air unit. It has a tactical of 1. It's within range of 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we'll fly him over to bomb Lotz as a ground support. So we're going to have these 4 hexes attack Lotz. We're going to have these 3 hexes attack the 3-3 here. We're going to have these 2 units attack here. I've skipped ahead a few phases to the land combat declaration phase. So we're now into land combat. At the very top is declare which attacks you want to make. Notional units has to do with invasions and paradrops, and we have none of those, so that's not going to happen. I'm not going to do any emergency supply or shore bombardment because none of the attacks are in coastal hexes. The Polish unit is unable to do defensive headquarters support because it is being surprised. And the attacking headquarters support is going to be by the Germans, and we will do that for the one of the attacks. And as I said, there's going to be a ground support provided by the one bomber, after which we'll resolve the land attacks. So, first we need to declare them. That's actually pretty easy. I'll choose Lots first, and I'll left click on it, and because I left clicked with the control key down, everybody that possibly could is attacking Lots. And if you look up at the top here, you'll see that the attacks is 35 to 9, which is what I had calculated. When we bring in the ground support, it's going to go up one. And in order to get these units to attack here, I just click on that while holding down the control key, and all of these units are attacking. And as you can see, it's 32 to 3, which is 21 plus to the die roll. And now that this unit has been committed here, I can just click on this hex, and these points attack here, and again it's 11 to 1 for a plus 21. It's losing a point because of the terrain. The terrain effects on the 2d10 modifier is going to give a -1 for the city, and since the division is in a city, the 22 for the odds shift of 11 to 1 goes down to 21. So we've done all the land combat declarations. We can move on to the next subphase. Once again, I've skipped over the subphases that we're not interested in. I'll bring this up a little closer, and closer still. What we're looking at are 3 attacks here. The 3-3 in the clear hex, the 9 strength points in Lots, and the 1-4 divisional here. We have the possibility of having headquarters support these attacks. The one headquarters is the 3-3 here, and the other is the 7-4. Both of those are shown in the selectable units form. In this case, I'm really hoping that neither of these units become disrupted. If I use the headquarters in HQ support, they're going to be disorganized afterwards. So therefore, I don't want to do this unless I have to. The von Bach is attacking with very good odds, plus 21, so there's no need to have him become disorganized. Runstedt, on the other hand, is attacking a hex with only 4 to 1 odds. So I'm going to commit him to this attack. And I just simply do that by picking it up and committing him. And so now he is attacking, and the odds, if you'll notice, have gone from 7.78 up to 9.78. When I add the extra unit, it's going to be a plus 10. So now into ground support, attacker fly to target. We'll pick him up, we'll bring him over here and drop him in, and we're now done with ground support. The ground support is actually 2 is being added. We're getting 2 points for him because during surprise all tactical bombing is doubled. And now we do a return to base for the ground support air unit. We're done that subphase, and we're into land combat resolution. This form is fairly stark when it starts, but as the subphases are progressed, from selecting to defensive to assault blitz and so on, more of this area down in here will have information presented. Right now we're choosing which of the 3 land combat hexes to attack first. So we have a plus 21 odds in Posen. That's shown over here. The units involved are shown at the bottom, both the defending and the attacking. If I go to this one, which is the Polish hex in the clear, that hex is a plus 21.33. The 0.33 is for fractional odds. There's a 1/3 chance, 0.33, that the 21 will go to a 22. If we do not roll well for the fractional odds roll, it'll stay at plus 21. And here are the units involved. There's 5 Germans attacking a single Pole. If we go to Lots, what we're seeing is that there are 2 defending units and there are 7 attacking units. One of the defending units is disorganized, so we're going to get benefits for that. Germany gets to decide the order of the combats because they're the attacking side. So we'll take the top one and we'll say combat chosen, and now it shows the odd shifts are plus 21. The Commonwealth player, on behalf of the Poles, gets to choose whether it's a blitzkrieg or an assault. Now we can go out here to view charts, and what the view charts are going to show us is that if we choose an assault, the die roll results are guaranteed to be a plus 23, which is a star 2S. Two defenders will be destroyed. If there were a third defender, it would be shattered. The asterisk means that, as noted over here, the attacking units are not disrupted, not disorganized. So this is a wonderful result for the attacker. Two of the defenders die, the third one is shattered, and nothing happens to the attackers. The shattered unit will come in the next turn as a reinforcement. That'll only happen if it can possibly retreat. In this case, the unit could not retreat, but we've only got one, and he's going to be destroyed by this. The same result would happen if we chose the blitzkrieg table, with the small difference that it would be a B result, and the B result is a breakthrough. The breakthrough means that the armored units could advance. However, it's a city, so they're not going to be able to advance. Essentially, these two results are identical. So, for this, we'll just say assault, and then we say resolve the attack. And the notice comes up that all losses for this land combat have been assigned. You click OK. This unit is destroyed, and there's no reason to scrap it. We'll just say OK, done. We are now into the advance after combat subphase. So down in here on resolving land combats, we selected one, chose assault, we did the die rolls. The losses were assigned automatically because there was only one possible way for them to be assigned. The hex control only happens if there's a paradrop or a invasion. There were no units to retreat, so we're into the advance after combat, and the Germany decides which units to advance. We're going to take the hex by advancing the 6-3. We're going to leave the 5-5 out of the hex, and instead he's going to go running back over to the western side of Germany in order to participate in the attacks over there. Advance after combat is done. We click on end that, and now we're into another selection decision. Do we want to do Lotz now, or do we want to do the other? Let's do the easy one. Get that out of the way. And this time the decision of assault versus blitzkrieg is being made by the German player because they have armored units involved. Again, the outcomes are going to be asterisk 2S or asterisk 2B. And we'll take the blitzkrieg and we'll resolve the attack. Again, all losses have been assigned. Why don't I show you what has happened here? We're up to assault versus blitz. The fractional die roll was a 0.33 and it was unsuccessful. So the modified die roll is a 23, and we have one defender being lost, which is indicated over here. The attacker is losing no units, and a breakthrough is occurring. So when we say OK, it's going to advance to the scrap phase for the 3-3. Might as well scrap this unit. And now we're into the advance after combat. We have a number of units. This hex will only hold 3. Let's leave the 8-5 armor where he is, since he's already next to Warsaw, which will probably be an attack that we're going to do next turn. We'll bring this unit up and this unit up. We'll also bring up the artillery unit. And so this hex is now full. We've got the 7-4. He's going to be able to either enter here or come around to this side and participate in the attack on Warsaw in the third impulse. So we've left with just one more attack to be done. And having finished the advance after combat phase, now comes up with just one attack remaining, and since there's nothing to choose, that decision has already been made. We have a note here that the attacker headquarters support is being applied, and the Commonwealth player gets to choose Assault versus Blitzkrieg. So let's look at the charts here. This time the range of results is pretty wide. It's not just the one entry at the bottom. The die rolls, because they're plus 10, could be anywhere from a 12 to a 23. If the two die add up to 2, then it'll be this result. The two die add up to 13 or higher, it's going to be this result. So as the Commonwealth player trying to decide which of these is better for me, what I'd like to do is I'd like to keep my units. If I could keep my units, that would be very nice, because then the Germans would have to attack them again. So here I lose none, here I lose 1. The retreat's going to be a disaster because there is no place to retreat. So these are all total losses, both units die. The B results also mean both units die, because the B result requires a retreat hex in order to be anything other than just death. So we've got 2 units in the hex. If we roll a 2, a 3, a 4, or a 5, we get to keep one of them. In all the other instances, both units die. If we look over here at the assault table, we keep both, we lose 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So clearly this is the better deal for the defending side, because we've got a better opportunity of at least preserving one of our units. It's also better for us because these asterisk results here mean that all of the German units are going to be face up. And if they're all face up, then they're all going to be able to attack in the next impulse, that the German player is the phasing side. So it's better to go over here where at least there's only one asterisk result. So we're going to choose Assault. We've saved more of our units, and we have more likelihood of the attacking units becoming disorganized and unable to attack on the third impulse. So we choose Assault, we resolve the attack, and what we see is that the odds roll 222 was successful. The roll was an 11 unmodified, plus 10 plus the fractional odds gives us a 22. The attacker loses no units. However, it does take an extra loss because it's attacking a city, and half the surviving attacking units are disorganized, and the defender loses 2 units. If we go out to view charts now, what you'll see is that we had chosen the assault table. This was the range of possibilities, and the actual die roll was the one in red here. This funny symbol here says half the remaining attacking units are not disrupted. So if there are 5, 3 of them are not disrupted, 2 of them are. And the attacker loses 1 loss. That was the extra loss because it was attacking into a city. The defender loses 2 units, and that's all he's got. So that's what's reflected here. The defender has lost 2 units. The attacker has not lost any so far because he gets to choose, and that's what's said over here. Axis must destroy 1 unit, and he must disorganize 3. Well, we've got the divisional units in the attack specifically to take the losses. So we click on this one, and once we've selected a unit, we get these choices. We can disorganize it. Remember, we need 3 of those. Or we can destroy it. So we will destroy it. And now it's marked as destroyed. For the 3 disorganized units, it might be tempting to disorganize the divisional unit. However, we'd really like to have him as a loss taker next time. So we're going to leave him organized so he can attack and become a potential casualty if the attack on Warsaw fails. This unit is going to be disorganized anyway because it was used for the headquarters support. So we're going to disorganize him. So we've got 1 disorganized, we've got 2 more to go. We'll take the weaker of the units because we would like to have the stronger units available for attacking Warsaw. Now we don't want to disorganize the 6-4 because if we did so, that would take up one of the positions next to Warsaw. So we're going to leave him, and we'll disorganize the 7-3 instead. So now we've got 3 disorganized units. The others are okay. We say okay, done. Notice all the instructions over here have disappeared. We're in the assign losses subphase. The scrapping units is possible. Why don't we just scrap the 4-3 this time? We'll leave the 5-3. That'll go into the force pool for the Commonwealth. We've got the 1-3. No, we don't want to scrap it. That's a nice little unit. We'll use it next time. If we get an opportunity, we'll rebuild it. We've dealt with the losses. We get to do advance after combat. And what we want to do is we want to advance units that are going to be able to attack into Warsaw. So though we could advance this 7-3, it's disorganized, and we don't want to do that. So we're going to take these 2 units and advance them. We'll leave the 7-4 behind, and that will enable us to put an additional unit into Lotz next time. And that's the advance after combat. We close that. So we have now finished the land combat phase, and we can assess what the attacks are going to look like next time. The Polish units have been reduced to the 9 strength points here, both of which are disorganized, so we're going to get +4 on that attack. We have the single Polish unit down here, but it's not going anywhere. It could move 1 hex from a zone of control to zone of control. It could take out the coal point here, but when Poland falls, it will be destroyed, and the coal will revert back to German control. So it's a minor threat, only if Poland survives. And it doesn't look like Poland's going to survive. What we've got down here is we've got 7, 15, 21, plus 13 here, so that's 24 points. And the artillery can also fire. 24 points would be coming across the river, so they would be halved. So we'll probably shuffle these units around. We'll take the armor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, bring it around to here. We'll take the 6-5, bring it around to here, and we'll shuffle some other units. What we want to do is have full stacking on this side of the river attacking into Warsaw. The artillery unit is going to be able to fire into Warsaw without regard to the river having its effectiveness. So we're going to be able to do a pretty good attack on the Warsaw. Probably something like 14 per hex on this side, which is 42. Plus some more points over here, maybe get it up to 54. Would be 6-to-1 odds here. And the 6-to-1 odds would get the benefit of the 2 disorganized units. We can also throw in the headquarters if we want for its support. So Germany is going to have a pretty good attack on Warsaw, 3rd impulse, and probably capture the city. It'll hold Lotz and Warsaw at the end of the turn. Poland will fall. This unit will die pretty much regardless of where it is, and therefore it does not need to be attacked with the risk of disorganizing or damaging any of the German units. And this concludes Chapter 9 of the training videos, Land Movement and Combat.